Hey guys, welcome back to my watercolor channel, and today I paint another owl. I have here my colors ready, which is a light red brown made out of yellow ochre and rose sienna, and then of course I use some yellow ochre, some phthalo blue, and then I mixed a really nice purple out of phthalo blue and some crimson red, and then of course I have some indigo blue as well. I have my sketch ready. It is quite important to have a good sketch if you want that your painting looks quite good. And I wet the area first, so I used the wet to wet technique, and especially the first layer I wanted to be quite blurry and not having too many of sharp edges. I use a mixture out of warm and cold colors, so it has already a nice contrast on the oil. And then I continue to mix a nice brown out of indigo blue and some crimson red, as well as some yellow ochre, but to make it really dark. So I have a nice contrast there. And then I continue to add the feathers. So as I said, that I don't use too sharp edges, it's just really tapping the brush onto the paper like you see it here. And it's always important to wet the paper ahead. I don't wet the entire area, so I don't need to be in a rush to add my colors there, and it's just a bit by bit where I work, or where I want to work, that I add much more water. I have actually wetted the entire chest, but I was a little bit too overconfident, and most of the areas have dried by the time I got there, so I just wet it again. As long as there's no color, there's no harm done. And I continue to add my different colors there. I didn't obviously want to be too realistic and added some of the really cold blue as well as some purple. I was a little bit afraid that it looked too much of a rainbow color, but actually the result looks quite nice. You can see here as well on the chest that I added later on the water, and it's mixing a little bit with the area beneath, but I like it this way, so it actually got really nice structure there. I use the top of the brush, so it's really thin and I have much more control. It's also a bit a harder brush, so it's easier to add much more stronger brush strokes containing a lot of water. I do have a reference picture, and I focus on that too. So obviously underneath the wing the colors are much stronger, as it is a shadowy area, and later on I still add much more, but I go bit by bit, and because it's a little bit of a bigger painting, it's a A3, so I take my time here, and I really like how the colors are flowing with each other together. I don't want to add too many details, but yes, I really like the idea of adding soft and hard edges. I continue with the wings, and also here I add a very nice red brown, and which is mixing with the purple, and then adding a little bit of the lower wing, much stronger colors, so having here some indigo blue. I have some single feathers which I keep relatively light, but remember as well that the chest is round, so or the wing is quite round, that keep kind of the flow, the roundness when adding the brush strokes. And I continue with much more darker areas. This is still the first layer, and the lower wing was still quite wet. But I had a small break and I waited till everything has dried. So I continue now with the head of the owl and adding here much more darker bits as well around the beak. So just emphasizing and watching that the direction of the feathers is going in the right direction, so it still keeps kind of the form. I continue to add some orange to the beak and then some turquoise of phthalo blue to the eye. So the owl's eye was very bright blue. It's a little bit looking sideways. I'm not quite sure if maybe this beak is a little bit too thin. I haven't used any masking fluid, so I have to watch where the reflection is. And then I continue to add much darker layer. Like I said, underneath the wing, I use a very soft brush, so I can use the flat wash technique. And again, I watch that the form of the different body parts is being kept, so that it's really like nice round and doesn't make it look too flat. And then it's just basically adding a few details, so just adding much more color, darker color, which contains more pigments, and emphasizing the areas, so it's really like popping a certain feathers areas popping up a little bit. And although I have to admit that the chest itself doesn't look too bad this stage, I still wanted to emphasize some single feathers there, so I added stronger colors and then spread it with the water, so it'll have more of a darker edges, and the feathers can be seen much easier, as well as emphasizing some more shadowy areas here. I continue with the eye and with the pupil. So I have added some Payne's Grey mixed with indigo blue. It actually looks a little bit brown because I haven't cleaned my brush when I added there more paint, but it's basically Payne's Grey on a lighter layer, so there's the possibility to emphasize it stronger later on, but I want to work on this quite carefully so it doesn't look like a blob and the eyes look too flat. I continue with the lower part while the eye is drying, and then emphasizing the little feathers here as well. And then I continue with the background. So I wanted that the owl is actually sitting on a branch and has a little bit of a cooler colors, so contrast to the very brown colors on the owl. I'm actually not quite sure what kind of owl it is. I have the reference picture from the Pixabay, so it didn't classify, and I want to say something wrong. Now, when adding the background, I thought I want that the colors are flowing a little bit downwards, so basically upwards, depending how the painting is standing or lying on the table. I use a very cold green. And then adding some salt, as well as some more indigo blue, which is mixing then with the very light green, and it's flowing downwards. I also use the brown colors that I have used for the owl, so that they're kind of like embracing and they're melting together, so the background and the body of the owl, and it looks much better than having just really hard edges. And then spreading much more color. In this case, I really don't mind if there are some of those traces, those cauliflower stains there, and I like to move the painting around when it's quite wet, so it gives different directions. Now I'm here at my last stage and just emphasizing the eyes, so I added a darker layer of blue and also emphasizing a little bit around the eyes, and make sure that the reflection is quite well visible. So this way you are able to get a nice round eye. And still a little bit more darker color around the body. And underneath, I thought it looks a little bit too pale compared to the rest of the body. But yes, that was basically it. So thank you for watching and remember to subscribe. Bye.